I've been thinking a lot about what we watch, what we listen to, and why we're drawn to consume certain media at different times. Because the things that we're drawn to are often a direct reflection of the state of our nervous system. In this episode, we're going to talk about all of it: podcasts, reality TV, fictional TV shows and movies, and how they all can be healing in their own way, and they all can be a reflection of what you need in any given moment. And there's no good or bad or right or wrong, but it can be helpful to pay attention to what you're reaching for and how it's supporting you right now. Welcome to Ebbs and Flows with Erin. In this show, we're getting real about navigating the ups and downs of life together. I'm your host, Erin, and we're ditching the pressure to have it all figured out along the way because honestly, nobody does. We'll explore all things healing, growing, creating, and connecting. And if you deal with anxiety, depression, being a highly sensitive person, or just feeling overwhelmed by life sometimes, I see you, and this show is for you. My intention with these conversations is simple: to leave you feeling empowered, validated, and most importantly, reminded that you are never alone, no matter where you're at on your own journey. So join me in getting real about what it means to heal. Thank you for being here, and now let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to Ebbs and Flows with Erin, or welcome back to Ebbs and Flows with Erin. Thank you for being here with me this week as we enter the new calendar year of 2020. This episode for this week might seem a little bit random, but let me give you a little bit of context as to why this is what I'm talking about this week. So we are coming out of the holiday season, and I'm reflecting back on my past year, and something that stood out to me was that it was during the holiday break last year, 2024, going into 2025, and this was a pivotal moment for me in what I consume, because it is when I started diving back into watching actual fictional TV shows and movies. Good cinema, good storytelling, fictional movies and TV shows. And this might sound like something silly or simple, but the more I reflect on it and the more I learn about it, which everything we're going to get into today in this episode, the things that we are feeling drawn to consume can be a direct reflection of the state of our nervous system and where we're at in our healing and what is supporting us. It's not random, the things that we're consuming. And I find this interesting, so I hope it's interesting to you. And I can follow the stages of my healing back over the years. I can see what I was consuming and how that kind of reflected what I was going through at any stage of my journey. So at this time a year ago, it was the first show that I started to watch after so many years of strictly watching reality TV, specifically Bravo, Housewives, Vanderpump Rules. I am a Bravo lover to my core. I watch it all. I'm obsessed. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, we're going to get into that. But all I was watching was that and listening to podcasts. And to begin my journey with podcasts, way back like 8 or 9 years ago when I was in the worst mental state, at first all I was listening to was true crime and murder podcasts for like 4 to 6 hours a day, because I'd listen while I drove to school. I was in business school at the time. I would listen during work. When I first started working full-time out of school, I would listen all day at work, and that's what I was listening to. And then, you look back and it's like, oh, why was I experiencing so much anxiety? Well, listening to true crime murder podcasts probably was not helping. But then we shifted out of that into strictly like self-help, self-improvement, any sort of podcast where I was learning. Obsessed, constantly listening to podcasts, trying to learn as much as I could along my healing journey to support my mental health, my overall health and wellness. And all of these things are not good or bad. It's just helpful to notice what it is that you're consuming at any given time and the information it can give you about what you needed or what you need, what you're experiencing. So for years, for me, when I was in the thick of my struggles and then the thick of my healing journey, it was all either like learning, self-improvement podcasts, or reality TV. And I love my reality TV and I love podcasts. But I came to a point a year ago where I was like, I am yearning to watch something that makes me feel like so much that I am all consumed by it. Because growing up, I was a TV movie lover. I can think back on periods of my life throughout all of my years, and I can remember like how certain shows and movies made me feel so vividly, and feeling just completely like enthralled and escaping in the worlds and the lives of different characters. And yeah, it was like a year ago, just over a year ago, where I noticed like I really want to experience that again. And I will mention in this episode a few different shows and movies that now I've consumed over the last year or so that have accomplished that feeling for me. And I forgot like how much I love escaping into the world of a fictional TV show or movie. And I also understand why I avoided that for so long, even if it was subconsciously, instead of reaching for something new that I had to open myself up to, I would just reach for my comforting reality TV or a podcast where I was learning, bettering myself. I understand why I avoided the world of escaping into fictional shows and movies, and we're going to get into the reasons why. You might be thinking about your own consumption habits, the media that you have been reaching for, or how your habits with that have fluctuated. And we're going to get into like why these different forms of media can be healing in different ways and what we're typically getting out of watching or listening to them. So this is all about why we consume stories through different channels, not judging ourselves for what we're consuming, because there's no hierarchy, you know, like especially when it comes to reality TV, such as Bravo, such as Real Housewives. I am a Real Housewives girl to the day I die, and you're met with so many comments about like how it's trash TV and whatnot. Again, we're going to get into it, but like that's just simply not the case. There's no right or wrong for what you're consuming. It's just information that can be helpful, and I just find it interesting, so I hope you do too. So I want to go through first reality TV, second podcasts, third fictional TV and movies, and a brief overview of why and how they can be healing in different ways. So as I said, reality TV. Specifically for me, I'm talking about Bravo, Housewives, Vanderpump Rules, recently Little Women LA. If I am talking to anyone who's a Housewives Bravo fan, I am now telling them they need to be watching the Little Women franchise. And I have to give credit to my girlfriend Kelsey, because me and my girlfriends were going on our Vegas vacation, and she was watching this on the plane, and we all kind of laughed. We're like, okay, really? Do we really need to be watching this? And the answer is yes. It's so good. And if you're not a Housewives watcher or a reality TV watcher, you might very well question, how can watching these shows be comforting when it's most of the time a ton of drama, women screaming at each other, and sometimes some more like dark storylines? The answer is because you don't have to invest very much to be invested in these shows, if that makes any sense. They're predictable, they are familiar, they're low emotional risk. So while there can be so much drama and emotion and tension happening in conflict, it's not the same as fictional characters where they are created with the intention to make us feel and relate to them. A lot of the time with these shows, there are relatable aspects, which I think is so powerful about these reality TV shows, because there are things that the people on them open up about and share about and are vulnerable about that other people can relate to, and it helps people to feel seen and heard. And I think it takes a lot of strength to do that on such a platform. But at the same time, for some reason, it's just less, there's just less attachment there. And it's something that you can put on and you don't have to be completely focused on to be getting anything out of it. Like a lot of the time it's a background show that you're putting on while you're working or you're doing something else. And you don't need to be like opening yourself up to contextual clues or symbolism or invested in learning about new characters and new storylines the way that you are when it comes to a fictional TV show or movie. With reality TV, I mean, you can pretty much pick up from anywhere. And while I'm a strong believer that if you're starting any Housewives franchise, you need to start from season 1 to understand all of the dynamics, I do believe that. It just feels so much more low risk than a fictional TV show. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but if you know, I feel like you know. Like Real Housewives of New York City, watching that franchise from season 1 to I think it goes to like 13 with the original cast, and then there's been 2 seasons, I believe, with the new cast. watching that, like, I was completely enthralled in their world. But at the same time, it was very low risk, low investment to follow along with the TV show. And the reason I always say to people, like, you think this is trash TV? I think it's a study of human psychology and human behavior watching these shows. You're studying social dynamics, attachment styles, conflict patterns, power and projection and insecurity. And while a lot of it can be extreme, the themes are still relatable, I think, to all humans. And there's also something just fascinating about something that seems so out of your realm of reality, where I also kind of have been looking at Housewives now as like manifesting passively. Especially the franchises where they are all like really wealthy, they're going on these wealthy, luxurious vacations. And I'll say to my friends, like, that's us one day. One day, all of our trips will be taking on private planes, and we will have chefs and spa days and glam squads coming everywhere with us. I'm manifesting it through watching Housewives. And I think one of the biggest things that makes reality TV comforting, especially Housewives, is the predictability and the familiar characters. Season after season after season, you're typically watching the majority of the same people. And while over the years I feel like there have become really like heavy storylines, when Housewives can keep it as what I feel like it was meant to be in the beginning, which is like recently on Salt Lake City Housewives, there was an argument between the ladies about who had bought a Rolex watch first. I think it was Rolex. No, Cartier. Cartier? Yeah, Cartier. Who had bought the first Cartier watch and who had bought their first Range Rover before each other. And like personally, and I saw the conversation online as well, that's what I'm watching Housewives for. I want to escape into like the silliest, pettiest, wealthiest version of life that these women live. I just want to be entertained. Not so much am I here for when it gets super dark, because then, yeah, sometimes you do leave watching an episode being like, that just felt dark and gross. And I don't know if I feel great about that. But for the most part, it's pretty low emotional risk to watch. And probably for any reality TV show, like if you're talking any of the dating shows, we all operate in relationships throughout life, so it's entertaining and relatable in some way to watch people navigate relationships. And again, of course, these shows are produced to create drama and emotional intensity and whatnot, but you can be a little more far removed than when you are watching a fictional TV show or movie that is just less predictable because it's not real life. So to sum this up, reality TV watching is often subconscious psychological observation. It is not mindless consumption. But it is something you can throw on that you don't have to fully invest yourself into. And especially when your nervous system is in fight or flight or freeze, you often don't have the capacity to open yourself up to investing in a fictional TV show or even a movie, because it requires you to let go and allow yourself to learn about a whole new world, really. And there's less predictability. You don't really know what you're in for. There could be something that triggers something in you or is heavy or too intense. Like, you just don't know. And I think reflecting back for myself, that's where my subconscious avoiding of watching or committing to starting any TV show or movie was like, I don't know what is going to come out of this, and I don't know what's going to make me feel, and I'm already too overwhelmed to even think about having to commit to feeling or learning anything new that I don't have the capacity for right now. So I'm just going to turn to my housewives that might be yelling over the dinner table, but something about it, you just know that they're going to resolve that conflict and move on, and that it's not that deep. So if you're a reality TV watcher, I would love to hear what you are into. What are you obsessed with? Are you a Bravo fan? Because if so, I can talk Bravo forever. I could have a whole separate podcast weekly about Bravo shows specifically. And it's genuinely just really fascinating to watch other people's lives. Because I think another part of it is that we feel like we shouldn't be able to see into other people's lives like this. So it's fascinating, however happy or sad they seem to be. It's fascinating to think that anyone is opening up and being vulnerable enough to allow their life to be seen like that on such a platform. Yeah, definitely don't think I could do it. Don't think I want to do it. But I love and appreciate all of the Bravo stars that do allow us to watch their lives unfold. Okay, let's get into why podcasts can be healing. Podcasts can feel really safe because it feels like someone is talking directly to you. It's like one-sided companionship. I know for myself, podcasts I listen to, I'll sometimes feel like I know that person. Like I'm like, this is my friend. I'm chatting with my friend, even though they're the only one talking. But it's comforting, especially when it's the same voice you've been listening to more than once. It's something you can count on and that brings you comfort. And a lot of the time you are learning or you're just relating to what someone's saying. Or there's podcasts you can listen to simply for enjoyment, just to listen to something light and laugh. Like my favorite podcast ever is Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. If you haven't listened, you need to. They're hilarious. But how it works is one of them brings on a surprise guest every episode, someone famous, and then they talk to them. The other two people didn't know who was going to come on, so it's pretty organic conversation. But my favorite part is just the three of them talking in the beginning and the ending of the podcast. They're literally just talking about nothing, just as friends. And I just love to hear it. Like I love their dynamic together. I love to hear them laugh and just be lighthearted and silly and just talk about like what they ate for breakfast. I love that. And it's light. And that's my favorite currently. I also love right now Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang, because again, it's also like she's just so light and like can be really real, but then also so hilarious. She just has like really good conversation with people. So I love hers. And then there's like Andrew Huberman, and I just love to learn from him. Those ones you have to actually pay attention to. So I just listen to those in certain circumstances where I'm actually locked in and paying attention because he's saying a lot. There's a lot to learn, but if you're just throwing it on and not paying attention, that information's not going to stick. But that's one of the great things about podcasts is that it is subconscious learning. So a lot of the time we're listening to podcasts while doing something else, while we are driving or walking or working out, cooking, or maybe you're just lying on the floor and literally just trying to get through the day. We are subconsciously taking in the information we're hearing from a podcast. And that is something that really supported me in some of my worst, hardest times and feeling really lonely and like scared about what I was going through. Turning to podcasts was such a comfort and a lifesaver in so many moments. Listening to people who just made me feel less alone, whether I was learning or not. And that's another thing I've noticed after reflecting about my media consumption over the years is that I got caught in a place where I felt like I did have to be constantly learning something, or I was like wasting time consuming if I wasn't learning or bettering myself. And while that is great, and I continuously will do that, you can burn out from healing or trying to better yourself or constantly be learning. You can burn out from that too. At some point, you do just have to let yourself live and feel and experience life. And there's nothing wrong with consuming things simply to experience entertainment, enjoy, or to relax and kind of like turn your mind off and just escape into something outside of your own world and your own thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that. Escapism, while there is a line, it's not a bad thing. We can heal and learn through escaping into other worlds and through storytelling. It really all comes down to storytelling. Storytelling is so important and it's so powerful, and we don't need to feel guilty for however we're consuming storytelling through all different kinds of channels. They're all meeting us where we're at different points in our life, supporting us in ways that we probably need. And if people weren't storytelling through all the different channels, we would often feel alone, or you wouldn't have realizations that we're really blessed to have access to now in today's world, where you can immediately turn on a podcast or a show or a movie or whatever in an instant and relate to someone or learn something. And sometimes, like I was talking about this with someone just recently, where it's like if you think about our parents when they were younger or our grandparents, like to learn something, you had to go to the library. You had to go outside, walk or drive, catch a bus, I don't know, go to the library and actively search for what you are wanting to learn or to connect with other people. You have to put a lot more effort in to connect with someone, to relate to them, to feel less alone. So we are very privileged to have so much access to so many different forms of media and storytelling. Okay, I feel like I got a little bit off on a tangent there as we're talking about podcasts specifically, but I think I touched on pretty much everything. Again, there's nothing good or bad, right or wrong about if you like podcasts or you don't like podcasts. And that could change and fluctuate over time. You might take time off from ever listening to a podcast, and then you might go through a phase where you're listening to one every day. And you might be listening to them to learn something or improve yourself, or you might be listening just to laugh or just to escape from your life and your mind. None of it is wrong. It's all just information. And again, when we are in fight or flight or freeze, especially, a podcast is so accessible and comforting to turn to. It's less stimulating than other forms of media and very comforting. I hope that I can help someone feel comforted with my podcast. That is my dream, because I've found that through so many other people's podcasts. And I hope that this section made sense, because I think I went off on a few tangents, but we're going to move on to fictional TV and movies, how they can be healing, and why this form of storytelling hits differently. And for myself, again, I'm going to relate back to around a year ago when I came to a place where I knew I need to escape into a world that takes me out of my world, and I have to learn about new characters, storylines, symbolism, and I want to feel something. I remember I texted one of my girlfriends at one point, and I was like, I knew that she knows like all the best movies, and I was like, I need a movie that's going to make me feel so much that I am crying, throwing up, screaming. And I did cry for a week after this one specifically. It's a movie called Aftersun. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. I could talk about this movie forever. It's called Aftersun. Paul Mescal's in it. We love Paul. And it's one of those movies where like it ends and then everything hits you. And you're having realizations and thoughts and feelings about it for like the following week. It's life-changing, truly. I don't want to spoil anything if you're going to watch it, but in short term, it touches on coming to a point in your life and your age where you view your parents as actual humans and what they may have experienced or been going through while raising you. And it will likely destroy you, but in the best way possible. So that's one of the movies over this past year that I watched that I was like, oh my God, I've missed this feeling, like feeling so deeply. I personally love when something makes me feel that deeply. Some people might not want to be crying their eyes out randomly for the next week after watching something, but I live for that. I do have to have boundaries with myself. Like I can't be watching something like that every week because it will start to really actually mess with me. But every once in a while, I need something to affect me that way. So Aftersun, Paul Mescal, watch it, please. I'm begging you. That pretty much sums up what can be healing about fictional storytelling. There's emotional immersion. You are escaping into an entirely different world, and the characters are created with the intention to make you feel and have you relate to them, have you feel for them. And there are character arcs, and there's symbolism, and there's hope without pressure, because you find yourself rooting for and feeling a certain way towards different characters and different storylines. Fictional storytelling can help us process grief, fear, and desire. We can feel without having to fix. We can remember what it's like to feel moved, like I just shared from my experience with Aftersun. But these are all also reasons why when your nervous system is in fight, flight, or freeze, it can feel too overwhelming to dive into a TV show or a movie. Because number one, news stories require emotional availability. Like I said, fiction asks you to learn new characters, track a storyline, feel alongside someone else, and stay present. And in a regulated state, this is enjoyable. In a dysregulated state, it can feel overwhelming, overstimulating, and kind of impossible. You simply just might not have the capacity for it. And that's where I was for several years. I did not have the capacity. I remember I would be like scrolling through the Netflix homepage and genuinely thinking like, I don't have the capacity to start this because there's no certainty in this. I don't feel like I have the capacity to commit to escaping into another world. And so I would just go back to my reality TV. Or also it can be like a comfort show, a show that you've watched. It might be fictional, but you've watched it over and over and over and over and over again. That's kind of the same, like another sign that you could be in fight, flight, or freeze, because again, it's predictable, it's comfortable. You don't really have to invest anything or open yourself up if you're rewatching the same show, like a good feel-good show over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just something to notice, and that might not be the case. Maybe you just really enjoy watching this show. But oftentimes, a show that is your comfort show that you continuously watch over and over can be because it's just too overwhelming to your nervous system to start anything new, and that's okay. And I still can find myself feeling this way sometimes with a new show because it's unknown emotional terrain. You don't know what you're getting into. You don't know how intense it's going to be. You don't know how close it might hit to home for you. You don't know what it might stir up inside of you. And a nervous system that's dysregulated avoids unknowns, not because it's weak or you're weak, but because it's protecting you. And it will fluctuate over time, and that's okay. Sometimes deep immersion can feel threatening because it requires letting go of control. Reality TV and podcasts allow for partial engagement, whereas fictional storytelling usually asks for your full presence. And I know for myself, when I'm really into a show or a movie, I am fully immersed into that world. Like, I feel like I'm part of that world until I'm done watching it. I'm a Pisces. One thing about us, we are escaping. Escapism, we live for that, and it can be to our detriment. But, like, okay, so for example, I just finished Heated Rivalry. If you haven't heard of this show, I don't know how you haven't heard of it by now. It is taking over the world, and I just finished watching it, and it's another case of I am all consumed by this show and this world and these characters. And when I'm not watching it, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the emotional complexities of the characters and the storylines and everything about it. I feel like I'm living in their world. And that is something that might feel a little too overwhelming at times. I mean, I guess at a level that could be unhealthy. It definitely could be unhealthy. There have been shows before where I have maybe been a little bit too immersed in that world, where I genuinely couldn't focus on anything else because it's all I could think about. I felt like I was living in that reality. Another one which kicked this all off for me about a year ago. It was holiday break 2024 going into 2025, so pretty much a year ago. Speaking of Paul Mescal, the show Normal People. If you have not watched Normal People and you're listening to this episode and you're like, yeah, I want to watch something that makes me feel so much that it like hurts, watch Normal People. This show, it's the most beautiful nightmare that you can imagine. It destroyed me, but it impacted me in such a beautiful, powerful, heartbreaking, devastating, amazing way. It's Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones. It's how they both got their like claim to fame, or not even claim to fame. They just absolutely crushed this show and their roles in it. And then they both like exploded into fame after that. It's just, it makes you feel things so intensely that it's like it's happening to you. So if that's something you have the capacity for, 1000% you need to watch it. Like, there are so many themes in this show that are relatable in a lot of different ways. The way that they have you so invested in these characters and their story together and separately is diabolical. Honestly, diabolical. That was my first one, like I said, real show that made me feel something in years, and I really just like went to the most extreme option. And it was, I want to watch it again because of how good it was, but it's also, like I said, it's a beautiful nightmare. Like, it's insane. It's on Amazon. Go watch Normal People. It's also a book, which maybe I should read, but anyways, I forget where I was going with that. But you do need to watch Normal People, Heated Rivalry. Another show over the last year, Tell Me Lies, which season 3 is coming, I think, in like a week. That's another show that's like diabolically good. And there's actually so many characters that they do such a good job of having us feel so deeply invested in each of these characters' storylines. This show too will just rock you emotionally. Every episode is like, you just can't stop watching it. Like, you're like, okay, I need the next one, I need the next one, I need the next one. It's so good. And it's also heartbreaking and like aggravating, and yeah, Tell Me Lies, another good one. Now I'm pretty much just recommending you TV shows, but this is what inspired this, because I just finished Heated Rivalry and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I started watching good TV this past year again. Severance, I know there's a giant Severance fandom out there, and then there's people who are like, what the fuck is this show? Which is fair. But that show as well, like when it's on week to week, I hate the way that streaming has made me feel like I'm gonna die before I see an episode when you have to wait a week for it, because I dread when the episode ends and I'm like, oh my god, I have to wait a whole week to see another episode of this, because it's so good. It's so good. It's like abstract, but it's so good. So that's another one. I don't know when the new season's coming, but if you haven't watched it before, go watch. I promise. You watch the first few episodes, you're like, what the fuck is this? And you could be tempted to stop, but don't stop. It's so good. Mr. Robot is another one that's really, really good. You do have to like really pay attention. There's a lot going on. And this is the other thing. I love when a show or movie makes me not even feel inclined to go on my phone at all. Because a lot of shows, like, you throw it on and then you find yourself suddenly you're on your phone as well at the same time. So anything that I can be so immersed in that I don't care about my phone, which is sad to say, but it's just a reality in today's world because we are so overstimulated. I'm trying to think of other ones. Okay, this one, Superstore on Netflix. It's such a light, easy watch, but it's honestly my second time watching it through fully right now. I think there's like 6 seasons. It is so good. Every time I watch, which is almost every night right now, because like I said, it's so light and easy to watch, which is really nice for when you're winding down for the day, because I don't know, I don't love to put on something where I really have to be thinking too much, or I'll just stay up all night watching it. And then also I'm bad for when I'm really that deeply immersed in a show or a movie. Once it ends, I'm immediately on Google, I'm on Reddit, I'm doing research about the characters in the show, the actors who play them, on certain things about the storylines. I'm diving deep into everything. I'm watching interviews. Like, I go deep. That's probably why my nervous system didn't have the capacity to do that for so long, because, like, I am really going all in when it comes to diving into the world of a show or movie. But anyways, Superstore is super light and easy and fun, and it is hilarious. Every night I'm like, I don't know how this show has not gotten more recognition, and maybe it has and I just haven't been aware of it. It is so funny. It's so good. I laugh out loud in every episode. So that's another one. I can't really think. I haven't really mentioned a lot of movies. I do feel like there's not a lot of new movies that come out in recent years that I leave watching them feeling like, oh, that was really good and made me feel a lot. I find myself going back to older movies when I want to watch something really good and really feel something, which is sad to say. I really want to see The Housemaid that just came out, because that was the first book I read this past year, which is another form of storytelling that I just got back into. In the end of 2025, I started reading for fun again. I hadn't read for fun in years, and growing up, I read my ass off. I read every single day and night of my life until I went to college and had to read not for fun, for learning, and then became a full-grown adult and just stopped reading for fun in general. I own like every self-development, self-help book that was created from like 2013 onwards, and I felt like anything I was reading had to be improving myself, I had to be learning, I had to be healing. And while that's all great, I forgot how good it feels to get lost in a fictional book, just reading for fun, not needing to learn or improve myself. And again, escapism. I then read like 4 books in 2 weeks. When I read The Housemaid, that was my first introduction to reading for fun again. Crushed it, so good. Read 3 more Freida McFadden books in the next week, and then I went and bought another book. They're all thrillers. The one I just read is, oh gosh, I'm forgetting, The Silent something, because I love a thriller, because I do get lost in it for hours. Like, the amount of times I'm reading and then I'm like, holy shit, it's like 1 a.m. I thought it was like 10 p.m. is insane. I do get too lost in the story, but I do need to mix it up from a thriller, because I love a thriller, but I genuinely do have nightmares when I'm reading them. So, would love some book recommendations. This is another thing. I feel so overwhelmed trying to pick out a book to read, because it feels like such a commitment to read something that I don't know if it's going to hit home for me, or if it's going to be worth it, quote unquote, if I'm going to like it. It feels like such a big commitment that overwhelms me. That's why I like to read when I've had a recommendation from a friend, because I'm like, okay, someone liked this that I know and trust. So then I feel like it's less overwhelming to commit to it. So, anyways, reading as well. I'm back on all of my fictional storytelling escapism, and I'm personally so happy to be back. Even though, as I said, I can get into a little bit of an obsessive zone with it, where it consumes my brain. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. I could be doing worse things. You could be doing worse things. Asking yourself, why is this what I'm wanting to consume? And, I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be that deep, but I think there always is information behind what we are reaching for in consuming. And it can be a mix of all of it. I still am obsessed with my Bravo reality TV shows. I still love to listen to podcasts. And I love to get completely lost in fictional stories, whether it's a TV show, a movie, or a book. And I'm grateful to have the capacity to do that once again. And I'm sure there'll be a time in life where I don't have that capacity. And that will just continue to fluctuate and ebb and flow throughout life like everything else does. But when I was thinking about what I wanted to record on this week, I thought at first, is this even an episode that would be interesting to anyone? Does my audience want to listen to this? But I feel like it's interesting. I'm interested in this, and maybe it's relatable to you. I hope that it is in some capacity. And I hope that it's a reminder that you don't have to judge yourself for whatever you're watching. So often in life, of course, we're talking to people, sharing like what you've been watching or listening to, and you might get judgy comments depending on what you share. And just know that you don't have to listen to anyone else's opinion. There is definitely someone else out there that's enjoying the same things that you're enjoying. And it's also okay that you consume media in general, because that's another narrative that can be spread online, especially these days, is like, turn off your TV, turn off your phone, don't look at any screen, stop watching TV, stop going on social media. Now don't listen to your podcasts, watch the music that you're listening to. And I think we just need to keep in mind balance and relativity, and realistically that it's okay to consume things. There's always just boundaries that we want to try and have with ourselves. Because if we are constantly distracting ourselves with escaping into other worlds outside of ourselves, outside of our own, and never taking the time or space to just be with ourselves and our own mind and our own lives and our own emotions, then yes, we can come to an unbalanced, dysregulated state. We don't want to be avoiding our own stuff in our own lives. But it's not wrong to have those outlets as well, and they can be healing in themselves. If you have any TV show, movie, podcasts, book recommendations, I would love to hear them. Like I said, I feel more inclined and I guess safe in a way to dive into something when it's being recommended to me. Honestly, I would love to record episodes where I'm diving more deeply into something I'm watching or reading. There are so many things that I watch or listen to that I always feel like I want to talk more deeply about. And so I feel like it could be fun to record podcast episodes diving more deeply into the things that I'm watching or listening to and the themes from them and things I'm learning from them, and just talking about them, like podcasts that talk about a certain TV show or movie and just dive into them. I would personally love to do that, but I don't know. I think I need to figure that out for myself, if that's something that feels aligned. Also, if it's something I want to do, should I just do it? Does that need to be a completely separate podcast and not Ebbs and Flows with Erin? Or can I just throw those podcast episodes in randomly and whoever's meant to hear it's going to hear it? And even if not, that's the other thing. For anyone who might be interested in starting their own podcast, what my advice, not even advice, but my learning so far is like, you just have to really not care. Like, you want to care enough where you're recording an episode to provide value. To provide for myself, it has to fall under healing, growing, creating, or connecting. So I want to provide valuable conversation under that umbrella of those things. But also, you kind of, on the other hand, have to not really care who does or doesn't listen to your podcast. Because then you start to overthink and overanalyze. You can get stuck in analysis paralysis, perfectionism that's just holding you back. and then you're not sharing what you really want to be sharing, or you're filtering it too much, or you're focusing too much on like the numbers, where the most empowering part of a podcast is just simply using your voice and sharing it. And just trusting whoever's meant to hear it and resonate with it will hear it and resonate with it. And if no one does, I talked about something that I care about, that I'm interested in, that I find value in, and I was my authentic self in doing so. So, little side note, but yeah, so maybe in the future I will share more deeply about things like TV shows and things that I'm reading or watching and what they inspire me to feel or think. Because there can be a lot of connection and healing and growth that comes from relating to the things that we consume and then talking about them. Like for years I've said I want to start a book club, but I just actually would need to initiate starting a book club. So maybe that's something too. Who knows what can happen in 2026, I guess. I just love to connect with people and talk to people about the things that we are consuming, because it's interesting the ways that we can relate, or people bring up different things that they've taken from something you've both consumed, and it makes you think about it in a different way. Like when it does come to Bravo, I have my one girlfriend, Jean, and we text and chat about Bravo. Like we could talk for hours simply about Bravo and the new episodes that come out every week. It could be a whole podcast in itself. There are so many Bravo podcasts though, so I don't know if that's really something the market needs, but just for our enjoyment, we can chat about Bravo for hours. And I love it. Anyways, I hope something was valuable to you in today's episode. I kind of feel like I am repeating myself now and rambling, but I'm grateful for you being here and listening. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye.